that is their place to go. Let every wave that tumbles down their cradle slam of raft prepare to lotus roots of dusty brown in my compassion's bounty share. Let every spark of vengeance roll round lotus tops and twine, and greed and light transformed by love in lotus heart and shine. When each light drop has passed away across my pure white lily door, when I have drained all sorrow I speak to deck the lossless floor. Let every petal softly float in summer's golden shine. Retreat to claim the splendid prize, Nirvana's joyless mind. Unfolding in Sansara's stream, let all the gloom of misery be gathered in my lotus dream. Let each teardrop that started light on each white radiant fold reflect the mercy of the Lord, that is their place to go. Let every wave that tumbles down their cradle slam of raft prepare to lotus roots of dusty brown in my compassion's bounty share. Let every spark of vengeance roll round lotus tops and twine, and greed and light transformed by love in lotus heart and shrine. When each light drop has passed away across my pure white lily door, when I have drained all sorrow I speak to deck the lossless floor. Let every petal softly float in summer's golden shine. Retreat to claim the splendid prize, Nirvana's joyless mind. Let pure white lotus be, unfolding in samsara stream. Let all the gloom of misery be gathered in my lotus dream. Let each dewdrop that started light on each white radiant coat reflect the mercy of the Lord, that is their place to go. Let every wave that tumbles down their curdled slime of raft prepare to lotus roots of dusty brown in my compassion's bounty share. Let every spark of vengeance roll round lotus tops and twine, and greed and light transformed by love in lotus heart and shine. When each life drop has passed away across my pure white lily door, when I have drained all sorrow may I speak to deck the lossless floor. Let every petal softly fold in summer's golden shine, retreat to claim the splendid prize, Nirvana's joyless mind. Let me a pure white lotus be, unfolding in samsara stream. Let all the gloom of misery be gathered in my lotus dream. Let each dewdrop that started light on each white radiant coat reflect the mercy of the Lord, that is their place to go. Let every wave that tumbles down their curdled slime of raft prepare to lotus roots of dusty brown in my compassion's bounty share. Let every spark of vengeance roll round lotus tops and twine, and greed and light transformed by love in lotus heart and shine. When each life drop has passed away across my pure white lily door, when I have drained all sorrow may I speak to deck the lossless floor. Let every petal softly fold in summer's golden shine, samsara stream. Let all the gloom of misery be gathered in my lotus dream. Let each teardrop that started light on each white radiant coat reflect the mercy of the Lord. That is their place to go. Let every wave that tumbles down their curdled slime of wrath prepare to lotus roots of dusty brown in my compassion's bounty share. Let every spark of vengeance roll round lotus tops and twine, and greed at last transform our love in lotus heart and shrine. When each light drop has passed away across my pure white lily door, when I have drained all sorrow may, I speak to deck the lossless floor. Let every petal softly fold in summer's golden shine, retreat to claim the splendid prize, Nirvana's joyless mind.
Sukihantu, welcome to our very first Sunday Dharma talk for the year. This talk is organized by the Shah Alam Buddhist Society. And a wonderful morning to all of you, dear brothers and sisters in the Dharma. Thank you for tuning in via YouTube and Facebook. My name is Karen and I am your host for today. Now, on this beautiful sunny morning, we're going to start with some morning puja. So let's chant together as a mark of respect for the great compassion and wisdom of the Buddha and to reaffirm our faith in the three jewels. I will invite all of us to put our hands together and chant along with the guidance of the Puja video.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Buddhang saranang gacchami, dhammang saranang gacchami, sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami, dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi sangham saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammam saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sangham saranang gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Adinnādāna veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Kāmesu miccācārā veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Musāvādā veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Surāmeraya majjapamā dattāna veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Itipiso bhagavā araham sammā sambuddho viññācarana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhammasārati sattā deva manusānam buddho bhagavāti. Svākkāto bhagavata dhammo sandintiko akāliko ehipassiko opanayiko paccattam veditammo viññohiti. Supatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho Pujopatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho Ñāyapatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho Sāmīcipatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho Yatiram cantari purisa yugani atte purisa pungala Esa bhagavato sāvaka sangho āhuneyo pāhuneyo dakhineyo anjali karaniyo anuntaram puññam kentam lokasnsāti. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Welcome back to our very first Dhamma talk for the year. And it's a pleasure to see all of you here. I am super excited to have all of you today. Now, we are very grateful to have Bhante Dr. Dhammapala as our guest speaker for this very special talk. He will be blessing us with a talk entitled "To Associate with the Wise is Indeed a Blessing." So why am I calling this a special Dhamma talk? Because we are doing this in conjunction with the new year. It's the first month of the year and we are right before the Chinese New Year. So I'm also going to take an opportunity to share about our theme for the Chinese New Year this year. And it is blissful every day, blessings everywhere. Blissful encompass a state of peaceful, at ease, joyful. If a person is blissful, he or she is happy, at peace, experiencing contentment, at ease, Zen-like peace, and full of joy and relaxation. Isn't that wonderful? So, Dr. Dhammapala Bhante will be sharing with us about the Mangala Sutta, which is the discourse of blessings. And that is why I said this is such a special talk today. So tune in, and if you haven't started sharing with friends who would be interested and would benefit from this talk, feel free to tag them and share this video right now. Okay, so before we start with the talk, allow me to introduce Dr. Bhante Dr. Dhammapala and share a bit about his profile, his background. Aren't you curious? In case you haven't already know, because he's quite an esteemed speaker. Okay, so Bhante Dhammapala was born in Kuching. He was ordained as Upasampada Bhikkhu in 1994. He spent 15 years studying Buddhist philosophy, Pali and Sanskrit literatures in Sri Lanka and Hong Kong. In 2009, he obtained his doctorate of philosophy in Buddhist studies under the supervision of Professor Venerable K.L. Dhamma-Jyoti in the University of Hong Kong. After his graduation, he was appointed as Chief Editor and Spiritual Director for the Buddhist Door website. This is one of the oldest and largest Buddhist websites in the world. In 2010 until 2013, he was the visiting assistant professor at the Center of Buddhist Studies, the University of Hong Kong. He has traveled frequently conducting meditation retreats, dhamma talks, and workshops in Malaysia, Hong Kong, Taiwan, China. Currently, he is the abbot of the Center of Mindfulness Hong Kong. So Bhante has returned to Malaysia in December 2013 and is now regularly invited by Buddhist societies and academic institutions to share the Dhamma and also his wisdom. And we are very blessed to have him with us today. So without further ado, I will now invite the Honorable Venerable Dr. Dhammapala, our esteemed teacher and guest speaker for today. Let's put our palms together to welcome Bhante. Bhante, you are muted.
Okay. Here, yeah. So before we start our talk, let us homage to the Triple Gem so we can recite together. Ratanataya Vandana. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Suakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Next is the request for 3 refuge and 5 precepts. So in Theravada tradition, before we do any meritorious deeds, such as dana, giving, meditation, or listening to Dhamma, we will first request 3 refuges and 5 precepts from the community of Sangha. So in this way, we can strengthen our faith and meritorious deeds. Okay, so we invite Brother Wu to represent the audience to recite after me, requesting the 3 refuges and 5 precepts. Ahang Bhante
Ahang Bhante
Tisaranena Saha pancha silang
Tisararena saha pancha silang
dhammang yachami
dhammang yachami
anugahang katva
anugahang gatva
silang deta me bante
silang deta me bante
dutiyampi ahang bante
dutiyampi
saha tisaranena saha pancha silang dhammang yachami anugahang katva. Something wrong?
Yar
Silang deta me
dhammang
bante.
wachami anugam katva.
Okay, so Brother Wu, tatiyampi ahang bante tisaranena saha pancha
Tatiyampi ahang
pancha silang dhammang yachami anugahang katva silang deta me bante vadama yamaha vadami tam vadehi
ama bante.
namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma bhagavato arahato samma.
Okay, so I think our technical teams have to look into this.
Yes, apologies for the technical difficulties with the
Okay, good.
interference.
Okay, then anyway, I think we just mute it and then we all read together at, you know, but you mute your computer, so you can recite at home. Buddhang saranang gacchami, dhammang saranang gacchami, sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. I think Brother Wu, can you mute? I think you can mute it. It's okay. You can mute now. I will recite. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sang.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tisarnagamanang nititang. Okay, so you recite Amabante. Panati pata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinna dana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Kamesu Miccācara Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Musavada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Surameraya Majapamadatana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Imani Pancha Sikkhapadani Samadhiyami. Imani Pancha Sikkhapadani Samadhiyami. Imani Pancha Sikkhapadani Samadhiyami. Patthana. Idang me punyang asavak kaya vahang hotu. Idang me silang nibbana sepat chayo hotu. Tisarnena saha pancha silang dhammang sadukang katva appamadena sampadeta. Silena sugating yanti, silena boga sampada, silena nimbuting yanti, tasama silang vesoda ye.
Ama Bhante.
Okay, so sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay. So a very good morning. Yeah, it's Chinese New Year is approaching. I wish to share a few blessing words that Chinese would like to hear. In Chinese, it's like this: 祝福大家吉祥如意. It means good luck and happiness to you, right? Or may all your dreams come true. Then, what is blessing? Mangala. So whatever that you can think of blessing, be it an items, objects, or words, have always been worshipped by the people in the world. And the most used blessing word used during the Chinese New Year is the word fu. Yeah, this is the word fu, yeah, blessing. And this word is hung, in the reverse order. What is the meaning? It's signifying, the blessing and good luck, descending from heaven back to home. So this is the auspicious blessing for many Chinese. And this blessing, right, are only found in the human realms, not in the celestial realms. Generally, people will go to temple to pray to gods for prosperity and wealth, but the God cannot respond our request because they don't even understand what is meant by blessing. So in order to discuss what is a blessing, what things constitute a blessing, the Sakadeva, right? I think you have heard the Sakadeva, from the 33 gods, in the second realms of the celestial, spend a long time searching for an answer or the blessing among goddesses, from different higher realms of existences. But the Sakadeva, failed to get the answer. The lower realms of devas, we will say, okay, you go to the upper realms and you ask, from those goddesses. Then, they ask, from layer and layer, from different realms until they reached the Brahma world where the Brahma God lived, right? And the Brahma God also cannot give the answer. Then, the God Brahma quietly or silently, or quietly, told the Sakadeva, okay, you go and see the Gautama Buddhas on earth, and he knows what constitutes the blessing. So the Sakadeva, who live in the 33 heavens, in a sense, a certain deities of stunning beauty, descending in the stillness of the night, approaches the Blessed One in the Jeta Grove and asks about the way to the highest blessing. So the Buddha preached the Mangala Suttas to Devas. Mangala Suttas explain 38 kinds of blessing to Devas. And this Suttas is very popular among Buddhists as protective chant or blessing for any auspicious event. So we shall recite these suttas together to invoke blessing. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Mangala Sutta. Evang me sutang ekang samayang bhagavan savatiyang viharati jetavane anatapin dikasa arame atako anyatara devata abhikantaya rattiya abhikantavanake valakapang jetavana obasetavan yena bhagava teno pasang kami upasang kami tva bhagavantang abhivadetva ekamantang atasi ekamantang titakosa devata bhagavantang gataya anjabasi bahudeva manosaja mangalani acintayong akankamana sotanang broki mangalamotamang asevana chabalana pandita nancha sevana puja chapo janeyana etamang galamotamang patiropade savasocha pobecha katapunyata atasam mapanindicha etang mangalamotamang bahusat chancha sipancha vinayocha susikito subhasita chaya vacha etang mangalamotamang mata pitu upatanang potadara sesanggaho anakula cekamanta etang mangalamotamang danan cedam mecariya ce nyataka nanca sanggaho anavat Jani Kamani Etang Mangala Motamang Arati Virati Papa Majapana Chasanyamo Apamado Chedam Mesu Etang Mangala Motamang Garavo Chaniwan Toche Santo Ticha Katanyota Kalenadam Masavanang Etamang Galamotamang Kanti Sovacha Sata Samana Nanchadasanang Kalenadam Masakacha Etang Mangalamotamang Tapocha Brahmachariyancha Aryasat Chanadasanang Nibbana Sat Tikiriyacha Etang Mangalamotamang Odasalo Kadamehi Chitang Yasanakampati Asokang Virajang Kemang Etang Mangalamotamang Etadisa Nikatavana Sabatamaparajita Sabata so tinga chanti tangte sang mangalamut tamanti Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu. Okay, now we have recited Mangala Suttas, which consisted of 38 blessings. So of these 38 blessings, I will focus on the first two blessings. That is, asevana cha balana, panditanang cha sevana. Right, not to associate with fools, right? But to associate with the wise. So in the very first blessing of his reply, right, the Buddha says that the highest blessings comes from avoiding fool and associating with the wise. Okay, so this is the first assignment. That is avoiding fools and associating with the wise, and this seems to emphasize a very important point in spiritual path. That is, the requirement of good friendship is important in the progress along the path of the Dhamma. And the purpose of Buddhist practice is to seek wisdom, right, through which we abandon defilements, which eventually leads to the cessation of suffering. And Buddhism don't pursue the enjoyment in heaven after death. Therefore, when the Buddha replied the God about these 38 kinds of auspiciousness, the Buddha starts by avoiding the company of the fool as the first blessing, because the fool is incapable of differentiating what is beneficial from what is harmful. So the fool will give us a wrong view and a distorted perception that affects our mind. So the first blessing is staying from the fool. So what is the foolishness? So when the mind of the person, right, get confused without the right understanding and the right knowledge, very often he produced many wrong views. In Pali, we call it ditti, or a distorted, the perception. We call it the sanya. So which affect the way, we think, right, chitta. So which eventually, leads to various kinds of dispute and quarrels. So if we took at the root of this problem, right, these views or the thought, right, upside downness or distorted thought are all caused by confusion, right, in the first place. So in the suttas, the Buddha said that the sentient beings have these three kinds of confusion, right? So the first one is a confusion of distorted perception, right? And the second one is a confusion of wrong view, and eventually confusion of mind. So the Pali stated here is sanya vipalasa, or ditti vipalasa, and chitta vipalasa. So that is to say, our own perception, the sanya, can affect, our own views. And both of this perception and the views, can affect, our way of thinking. So most of the worldviews are based on ideas from our families, from our friends, from cultures and the religions that we are born into. So those input affect our worldviews or affect our perception, of the world. Then they mold, our perception and how we think. For example, most people believe in eternal heaven, right? Most religion, in fact, believe, in eternal heaven after death. So in the theistic religion, those who believe in Creator God, they believe that Creator God created the world and human beings. So they believe those who live by, those teaching will ascend to the Creator God in heaven after death. But unfortunately, those who disobey those teachings are supposed to be reborn in hell for eternity. So the perception is that, either human beings born in hell or born in heaven. Yeah, modern science, reject these kinds of creator worldview. However, most people still go by that wrong view. And it is also astonishing to see that, even some prominent scientists are willing to disregard, these scientific facts. And they have the perceptions that the Creator God created the world and the human being. Right? Of course, for them, science is one thing, religion is another thing. That's why, but in this Albert Einstein, he says, science without religion is lame, right? And religion without science is blind. So this is a very, very, very famous quote, no? By many, many people, right? And you can see that the Einstein, put an important, to the religion, so for many people, it is very difficult, to break through such, ingrained perception of belief that passed down, from generation, from generation. And you see, there are examples also, the wrong views, So the Buddha says, the cultivation of insight, the vipassana, definitely helps, to get rid of those, the wrong views, right? And the wrong perception. So a very good example of the wrong view or the wrong perception that we have is about, the high value nowadays, place our physical body, that kind of beautification, right? And people spend billions of dollars a year, trying to make, their physical body, looks more beautiful. And they don't realize the fact that, no matter how much money, you spend, his body will decay and eventually destroy. So this starts of wrong perception, right? Believing, to live eternity, right, or eternally, will lead one to severe depression and suffering. That's why, after the Buddha's, getting enlightenment, right, enlightened, the Buddha says clearly, right, in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, it says, whatever is of the nature of rising is of the nature of ceasing. So this is something very new that the Buddhism offer, enlightened, in India. And of course, Buddha also says, in other suttas like Vipalasa suttas, the Buddha says, there are 4 types of these upside downness about anicca, dukkha, anatta, or asubha. Yeah, so these are what we call the upside downness, the distortion views, you see, of, okay. So yeah, for example, we also have wrong view that thing in this world have a permanent nature, right? So this is what we call the ditti vipalasa, about, what you call the wrong views about the permanent nature. So because of this wrong view, people also develop confusion or perception, the sanya vipalasa, about, this impermanent nature of things. So once we comprehend this impermanent nature of things and live accordingly, attaining, say like jhana or vipassana, then we experience the pleasurable, feeling without attachment. So this is a types of unworldly, transcendental, spiritual pleasurable feelings that we can pursue for our renunciation of desire. Okay, so okay, now we also look at, okay, so this is the contrast between, the companionship of bad people, versus companionship of good people. And it is mentioned in the Chula Ponasa Suttas of Majjhima Nikaya. And when we raise the questions, how to recognize good companionship, how to distinguish good companionship from bad companion, the Buddha offers us a very crystal clear advice. So in this sutta, he explained the difference between, the companionship of the bad person and the companionship of the good person like this. The bad person, right, chooses as friend and companions those who are without faith, okay, and whose conduct is marked by the absence of shame and moral dread, and who have no knowledge of spiritual teaching, who are very lazy, unmindful, and who are devoid of wisdom. Then as a consequences of choosing, such bad friend as his companion, right? And the bad person plans and act for his own, for the harms of others and for the harm of both, and he meets with sorrow and misery. Okay, so of course, in contrast, the Buddha says, the good friends, the good companions, are those who have faith, right? Who exhibit a sense of shame and moral dread, right? Who are learned in the Dhamma, right? Energetic in cultivation of mind, and mindful and possessed of wisdom. Okay, so yeah. Okay, now you look at this picture, right? This is what we call Bimbisara gel. Yeah, we all know that the Devadatta, right? We all know Devadatta. He was regarded as a bad friend and bad companions, right? In Buddhism, we know. You see this Devadatta. Yeah, he instigated the prince, Ajatasattu, who is the son of the king Bimbisara, and we know this prince Ajatasattu. Was an educated prince, but because he had Devadattas as his teacher, and he killed his father, Bimbisara, for his kingship. The reason why Ajatasattu was continuously ill-advised by a monk Devadatta, who is a cousin of Gautama Buddha's, because, the king Bimbisara, turned a follower of Buddhism, right? And Gautama Buddha's growing influence made Devadattas very, very jealous. So as a result, Devadattas, convinced, his son, Prince Ajatasattu, to seize the throne through a coup, right? Then Ajatasattu was triggered, by all this, right? And soon he executed his own father, King Bimbisara, and he imprisoning him, right, in the jail. So this place is known as the Bimbisara jail. If you look at this jail, opposite is a mountain, right? This is a mountain called the Gruddakuta, Lingqiu San, Gruddakuta. And every morning, you see the King Bimbisara, can see the Buddha's ascent, to the Gruddakuta hill, from his prison. Okay. Then a legend also says that the King Bimbisara took his own life after he was being imprisoned. Whatever the case, right? This Prince Ajatasattu was responsible for his father's death, which gave him, to ascend, to the throne of Magadha. So because Ajatasattu associate with good friend, associate with bad friend, right, Devadatas, he could not carry out any other goodness, right, for the good of the people. So as a result, after his death, he suffered continuously, in the hell, right? And this story, expresses the evil consequences arising from association with bad friends. So what is the characteristics of bad friends, right? So in the Sigalovada Suttas, these 4 characteristics of bad friends are mentioned, right? And the first character is a person who only takes from others and does not give in return. Okay? Yeah. Imagine one much in return, for giving just only a very little, right? So he gives service only when he get into trouble, right? And of course, he also attain, on someone's only for his own advantage. So this is, kind of, the characteristics of this type of person. Then you look at the second, a person who only render lip service by making empty promise. And he tried to, please one with empty promise. But when occasion actually arises, to render his existence, then he expresses, his inability, to do so. Yeah, we have many friends like that. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, from Buddhist perspective, these are the characteristics of a bad companion. And the third character of bad companion is a person who flatters, right? He praises him in his presence and he speaks ill of him, right? In his absence. Yeah, this is very bad. Yeah. So he doesn't know how to protect his friend. Yeah? And the fourth character of bad friend is a person who is an associate in activities that lead to loss of wealth. Right? He is a companion, indulging in intoxicants that causes negligence. And he is companion when sauntering in strict and unseemly hours, right? Or he is a companion, frequenting the entertainment, bars, etc., etc. Yeah, or indulging in gambling. So these are, we have, many friends having these characteristics. So we have to discern, what is good and what is bad when you associate with them. Okay, it's opposite, right? Panditanang Jaseva, the associate with the wise, right? Admirable friendship. Yeah, it's a second blessing. So the Buddha taught us, right, to stop evil and to do good. Therefore, on the path of Buddhist practice, we stay away from the foolish ones and stay close with the wise. And this is a very important lesson and practice in our spiritual journey, without which the spiritual path is impossible. And this suttas, right, from Sarvata Nikaya, right, emphasizes the importance of spiritual friendship for life here and hereafter. And there is a conversation, between the Buddhas and his disciple Ananda, in which Ananda enthusiastically declares, right, Bhante, right, here referred to the Buddhas, right, this is half of the holy life, that is good friendship, right, good companionship, and good comradeship, right? And the Buddha immediately replied, not so Ananda, that is not true. Instead, that is the entire, spiritual life. And Ananda, right, the entire spiritual life, that is good friendship, good companionship. You see? So you see, the Buddha emphasized, the whole of, the spiritual life is about the good friendship, it's about the good association with the wise. But of course, this life journey is not an easy journey, right? Like, what in Chinese say, you see, life is comparable, to a bumpy road. And, there are many up and down. Therefore, the person, the key of person's success or failure is very often influenced by the nature of person, whom you associated. So if you associated with the wise one, they will give you, support, kind of encouragement, wherever you are, or whether you are miserable or disappointed, and they even help you, right? Show you the right path, accompany you, right? Share the happiness with you. Okay. So on the path of our spiritual journey, we need a dhamma companion, a good teacher, right? A good kalyana mittas, and to support and encourage each other. Therefore, the Brahma Vihara Monastery, started from the 1st of January, right? Introduces this monastery stay, right? A self-retreat course, right? For those who wish to stay in the temple, and to associate with the good companions, right? Good teachers, and to support, right, each other's in our spiritual path. So these suttas shows a very important, a good friendship to the practitioner. And good companionship, right, is the whole of the spiritual life. Just as a teacher in our school days, right, they carefully and diligently protect and teach students until they are properly trained. So when the Buddhas were still alive, right, he often encouraged, new monk, to learn from his disciples, such as, Sariputtas, Mahakashyapas, and Venerable Moggallana, and to learn dhamma from them. Yeah, and the Buddha himself also said, without the guidance of, his past kalyana mittas and the prophecies of the Buddha Dipankara, it is impossible for him to cultivate 10 perfection in his spiritual journey of Bodhisattva's path. And it is also not possible, right, for Bodhisattvas to attain, the fruits of enlightenment. Therefore, in Chinese, there is a saying that 一日为师终身为父. It says, one day a teacher, a lifetime a father. And so if we were to cultivate, the spiritual path, we should associate with, spiritual friend, and with the support and guardian, which is the entire spiritual life, then only we are possible, to walk the right path. And we must be very grateful, to our teachers, who is also our kalyana mittas. Yeah, I think you all know, Sudhana Kumar, right? This is in Chinese, it's called Sanhai Tongzi, Sanchai Tongzi. Sudhana Kumar, who is found in the Mahayana Suttas, called the Avatangsaka Sutta, right? Okay, Huayan. And we know Sudhana, he was a young man, right, who was seeking enlightenment. Then he takes a pilgrimage on his quest for enlightenment and studies under 53 good friends, right, or kalyana mittas. So these 53 kalyana mittas, good friends, directed him towards the way to enlightenment. And this shows that, the kalyana mittas is important, right, in our spiritual path. So why it is important to be associated with admirable, good friends? Then the Buddhas continue, right? He said, when a monk has a good friend, a good companion, that he will develop and cultivate the noble eightfold path. And this is a supramundane path, right, which leading outward, to nibbana. And this noble eightfold path is also middle path, right, discovered by the Buddha himself under the Bodhi tree at the time of his enlightenment. So this path is guided by the sila, samadhi, and panya. That's why the Buddha says, good companionship is the entire spiritual life. So when a monk has a good friend, okay, a good companion, right, it is to be expected that he will develop and cultivate the noble eightfold path. Okay, so these are the noble eightfold path, having these 8 limbs, like right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Okay, so, and yeah, this is also another sutta, particularly important for our spiritual progress, is the selection of friends and companions. Then who can have the most decisive impact upon our spiritual journey. It is because he perceived how our mind can be to the influence of our companion. You see, that's why the Buddha repeatedly stressed the value of the good friendship in our spiritual path. So yeah, it is through the influence of a good friend that the disciple is led along the Noble Eightfold Path, to release from all suffering. So in these suttas, right, Anguttara Nikaya, right, mentioned Kalyana Mittas is a prerequisite for awakening. Right? So if wanderers who are members of, this is a quote, right? If wanderers who are members of other sects should ask you, what, friends, are the prerequisites for the development of the awakening factors? Then the Buddha said, you should answer. There is a case where a monk has admirable friend, people as friends, companion, or colleagues. So this is the first prerequisites for the developments of the awakening factors. So Buddhism differs from other religions because Buddhism has the institution of the Sangha community, right, where the monastic members living together, right, learn together, practice together, in the Sangha, for the common goal, that is for the realization of nibbana. Right, so in a temple, right, when you associate with a monk, he is your good mentor or your good friend, right? Why? Because monks are really wishing for your welfare and really concerned with your spiritual progress. So we say monk is your Kalyana Mittas. In the Sigalovada Suttas, this sutta is quite known to many Buddhists. There are duties of monk, to disciple. For example, monk, we encourage disciples, to do good, right? To refrain from, doing bad, and he will show compassionate, to them, to teach them, teaching that had not been heard of before, and show them also the path to heaven. So and we are talking about this relationship. We are talking about reciprocal, right? Similarly, the laities, right, the lay people also have to respond. Similarly, how you should be kind, right, in body, speech, and mind to the monks, right? Not showing very harsh or ill thought, to the monk. Keep criticizing the monk. We should show the kindness to the monk. Don't reject them also. When they come to your house, welcome them, and serve them the best in your house, right? And provide them with the material support, such as for requisites, etc. Okay, so this is, in the Sigalovada Sutta. So in the case among the lay people, right, the Buddha also has said there are these 4 qualities of good friendship. So here is a segment. It says, in whatever village or town he may dwell, right? He associates with householders, okay, who are of matured virtue, accomplished in faith, moral discipline. This is the second. The third is generosity, right? And the fourth is of wisdom, accomplished in wisdom, right? And he converses with them and engaged in discussion with them, right? He emulates them in regards to the accomplishment in faith, moral discipline, generosity, and wisdom. So this is called a good friendship. So he is also a very good leader. Okay. Okay, so this is the first accomplishment in faith, right? So that is to say, a good friend have a very unshaken confidence in the Triple Gem, right? So when a Buddha is, taking refuge in the Triple Gems, his faith, right, should be rooted in understanding, right? And of course, in Buddhism, you see, the Buddha asked, his disciple, to investigate or to test, the object of his faith. So this is the, the Buddha's teaching of faith, very different from other religion, right? And the Buddha also, compared the faith, with the hand, which, can grasp the jewels if one is lucky enough to be, on the mountain full of, jewels. Huh? Actually, one is more fortunate to be in contact with Buddha's teaching than to be on the mountain of jewels, because one with faith can acquire a lot of merit, which is more precious than jewels. Right? A man without hand, cannot grasp the jewels. So a man without faith also cannot acquire good merit. So you can see this faith is also very important, right? And the second one is accomplished in moral discipline, right? In discipline. So what is this discipline? We are talking about the 5 precepts, right? And okay. And the third one, accomplishment in generosity, right? Generosity means he practices giving, right? He is generous, open-handed, delighting in relinquishing, right? He devotes to charity, delighting in giving and sharing. So this is the third quality, right? And the fourth one is accomplishment in wisdom. Okay, so now we look at another part, right? It says that good society cannot be constructed without good friend. So in these suttas, right, Sigalovada suttas, the Buddha said that everyone ought to do, right, his own duties in relation to others in the society, right? So when you talk about a good friend, it doesn't mean between, one same age or generation, but also between, parents and children, between the teachers and students, between monks and devotees, etc., etc. Okay, here to start a few, huh? For example, we talk about the learning, start at home in our childhood. The parents are the first teacher, right, to their students at home. So that's because parents teach them moral and spiritual values are necessary to their life. So in such cases of good living, good instruction, and good, right, the parents' roles is very important and should be respected by parents, by children, right? And parents should be regarded as good friend as well for children. And of course, children should also respect and honor to the parents and take care of them when they grow old, right? So that's why we say, parents and children are also mutually good friends. And similarly, the husband and wife, mutually needs to be good friends as well to each other. Yeah, I think there is a story of Mahamoggalana. I think we all know he is one of the great disciples of the Buddhas, right? In his past life, many past life, right? He has done a very great evil, to his own blind parents in one of his, past existence. So in the beginning, he was very beautiful, a dutiful son, very dutiful, very filial piety. But after his marriage, his wife began, to take trouble, and she asked her husband, right, should get rid of his parent, and he, right, Moggallana, right, his past life, told a lie to his parents that their relative in another region wished to see them. So he put his parents onto a carriage and begins driving the cart, through the forest. So while in the depth of the forest, he dismounts and walks along the carriage, telling his parents that he has to watch out for robbers, right? So which are common in the area. He then impersonates the sound and cries of thieves, pretending to attack the carriage. Then, of course, his parents, tell him to fend for himself, because as they are old and blind, and implore the imaginary thieves, to leave their son. So while they are crying out, the man, who is their own son in disguise, beat their parents, okay? And subsequently, he killed their parents and throw the bodies into the forest before returning home. And because Moggallana, right, Moggallana has contracted, such an evil karma in his previous life, right? It means that he murdered his own parents, right? And because of these, evil consequences, he suffered in the hell for a long time. That is because, he has, he does not have a good wife who is a good friend, who can be regarded as a good friend. So this is very important. You see the importance of, Kalyamnita, Kalyana good friends, your association. Okay. Yeah, here, during the Buddha's time, right, the Buddha is known as a good friend, as a good friend, par excellence. And many people, including king, right, ministers, wealthy people, the poor people, whoever associated with the Buddhas, have gained liberation from suffering. So if we associated with virtuous friends, then we will be guided by the virtuous friends, and we will change our bad character. Like Angulimala, right? We all know he was a good example of how he was earlier a very brutal man, right? Killing of 999 men. But later, he becomes a very good, virtuous man under the influence of the Buddhas. Okay, so Angulimala was compared to a Hitler, right? In those days, he had killed, 999 people, and he cut, the fingers and make the garland out of those fingers. And of course, many people scared of him, and he was looking, for 1,000 fingers, and it was so happened that the Buddha was passing by. Angulimala, lived on the top of the hill. He saw a beautiful man, a very handsome man, and a very good-looking man. Then he said, haha, this is my 1,000 finger. I can have his finger as a garland. Then he came down the hill, laughing, at that monk, okay, and making noise. So, I'm Angulimala coming, you see. But however, the Buddha was very, very, very firm, very unshaken. He just stood there, smiling at him. And of course, Angulimala was, chasing after him, but he could not succeed. So the Buddha was standing in front of him, right? The Buddha is the embodiment of peace, and love and compassion. So the Buddha just smiled at him. Then with so much, the compassion and grace looking at Angulimala, his heart was melted. Then immediately he felt at the feet of the Buddhas, right? So you can see the amount of light and love and compassion, just, shocked the Angulimala, right? He then later become a Buddha's disciple, a very good Buddha's disciple, right? And the Buddha taught him Dhamma. Then he soon become a monk, and attained the sainthood. So you see, Angulimala, after meeting the Buddhas, he becomes a very good, wonderful person. So this is a result of associating with the good, virtuous friends like the Buddhas. Okay, yeah, there is also another suttas in the Udaya Suttas from Anguttara Nikaya, right? It's the qualities of a Dhamma teacher. And the task of admirable, right? Good friend, whether he is a monastic or laity, it's not just only to provide the companionship, in the treading of the path. He is also a truly one who understands, with understanding and sympathy of heart. And he should possess of these 5 qualities, right? And the Buddha, told Ananda, it is not easy, to teach the dhammas to others, Ananda. The dhamma should be taught to others only when these 5 qualities are established within the person's teaching. And which 5? Right? The dhamma should be taught with the thought. I will speak, step by step. Okay, it means that the Buddha's teaching is of gradual step. I started with dana, sila, bhavana, etc., etc. Okay, and the dhamma should be taught with the thought. I will speak, exploring the sequence of cause and effect. Okay, and the third, the dhamma should be taught with the thought. I will speak out of compassion. Okay, and the fourth is I will speak not for the purpose of material rewards. And the fifth, I will speak without disparaging myself and others. So you see, it is not easy to teach the dhammas. You need to have these 5 qualities. Whether you are monk or lay people, right? You should have these 5 qualities. Okay? Okay, so yeah, in another sutta, Subhasita Sutta, right? Then, be a good friend, right? We have to know also how to speak, properly, right? Many problems, misunderstanding arises because we are not speaking properly. And of course, we also notice that someone who speaks a very pleasant speech, right? He gets many good friends. He tends to get a good friendship. So, we have to be aware of our speech. If we don't, speak properly, okay? If we speak with harsh word and very unpleasant speech, then we tend to create animosities, So we have no friends, we get the bad friends instead. So there is a types of cultivation of mind, right? Called the metta bhavana, right? And what is metta bhavana? I think most of you know, right? Metta bhavana means the cultivation of loving kindness. And what is this metta bhavana? It's a radiating of loving kindness to oneself and to others. Right? And of course, through practice of loving kindness, it counters, right? What you call the ill will, right? And that helps, to remove our negative state of mind. And you see, each one of us, whether you are Buddhist or not, right? We can train like this, right? We can recite this verse, right? Usually in Buddhism, we will say like "Sabbe satta sukhita hontu," right? May there be happy, okay, for you, okay? May you be well and happy. So this is a very short verse, but very powerful and very meaningful verse, and very blessed word. Sabbe satta sukhita hontu, right? And you also can recite to yourself, right? Say like early in the morning, right? When after washing your teeth, brush your teeth and wash your face, you can look at the mirror, right? You can recite, "May I be well and happy." Okay, as you recite, this sabbe sat, "May I be well and happy," you see, you really make your mind feeling good, feeling peaceful. You have calm and tranquility. Try to feel it. And you have to let this, feeling of loving kindness to yourself, growing in your mind so that you gain the strength, and confidence and develop, that kind of loving kindness within your mind, right? And of course, in the meditation also, as you have strong, loving kindness in yourself, you also can think of your good friend, and bring them also to your mind clearly, and to think of the good qualities. You see, so you also can feel connection with them, right? And encourage those to grow by repeating also the same, but may they be well, may they be happy, quietly to your mind, you see, and of course, gradually you extend, to live, to what you call living being, from 10 direction. So the Buddha always advised, us to live in harmony without any dispute whatsoever, right? So in Buddhist community, right, be it a laity or the Sangha, you see, we have to live together mindfully, mind our word and speech, right? And radiating the loving kindness, so that we can live in peace. So this is very important. So, one who speak well, one who speak on the teaching, one who speak pleasantly, and one who speak truthfully, right, is very important, right, to communicate in any society we live in. And if we are not skillful, right, in pleasant speech, then you find difficult staying together in community. So we have to train our mind, make that inclination of the mind, right? And that inclination of the mind, will make us perfect, yeah? So the inclination of mind is very important, associated with mind, associated with good friend, speaking, the pleasant speech, etc. Okay, now, here is also another part, a true friendship. Here, I would like to quote the stories of Sariputtas and Moggallana. Right? We all know, these two great disciples of the Buddhas, right? And he's a very good example. Two of them, are very close friends, from the young age, yeah, from the childhood. And of course, both of them also developed interest in the spiritual path, in the spiritual life, when they were young. So eventually, that also lead them to live, the worldly life, and start the spiritual life, under another wanderer's teacher called the Sanjaya Velatiputta, right? So he is also a very famous, religious teachers during the times of the Buddhas. And later on, Sariputtas and Moggallana left their teacher because the teacher cannot satisfy their spiritual needs. Later on, the Sariputtas and Moggallana, both of them live and continue, the spiritual search. Then they split up, in different direction. And of course, they also made an agreement, right? Whoever, first who find the non-death teaching, okay, in a spiritual life, please tell others. Then the Sariputtas, met a monk called Assaji, right? Assaji, he was one of the disciples of the Buddhas, right, who is working, to receive alms, from devotees. Then because Assaji's the kind of very, very calm and very serious deportment, right, inspired Sariputtas, to approach him and to learn more. And yeah, Assaji, yeah, he said he was still a very new monk, right, newly ordained, and he can only teach a very little. Then he expressed, the essence of Buddha's teaching in these words. Yeah, this is very important, right? Ye dhamma hetupa bhava, tesang hetong tatahagato aha, tesang ch yo nirodho evang vadi maha samano. Yeah, the meaning is of those phenomena which arise from causes. Those causes have been taught by the Buddhas, and their cessation too does proclaim the great ascetic. So in brief, the whole verse is talking about, the arising and the ceasing of suffering. Okay, so these are, using this paticcasamuppada, dependent co-arisen. Then, of course, this very simple words really inspired Sariputta. So immediately, Sariputta, listens to this verse. He attained, first stage of sainthood. It's not directly from the Buddha, but he just listened to this verse. He attained, the first, the sainthood. Then Sariputta was very happy, right? He later, told Moggallana about his discovery. And when Sariputta told Moggallana on the same verse, Moggallana also attained the first stage, right? The first sainthood. So these two great disciples, Sariputta and Moggallana, together with his former teacher, right, 500 students, went to see the Buddhas and ordained as a monk, under the Buddha. So you see Aswajit, his very brief segment known as this Ye Dhamma Hetupa Bhava, you see, has been described as the essence of the Buddha's teaching in brief, right? So, and you might, if you find also in many places, this kind of verses inscribed in most of the, religious places, right? It is, you find also in our Malaysia, Lembah Bujang, Lembah Bujang, you find also the verse also inscribed on the stone, on stone bar, and that discovered in the Bujang Valley, the same verse also, so, yeah. And in our Brahma Vihara, in front of Sima stone, we also inscribe the similar verse, Ye Dhamma Hetu Bhavana. So this one is quite famous. Okay, so this is, this is the last one. Yeah, keeping company with the wise, inclination of the mind. Yeah, association with the wise, right, becomes so much crucial, right, to our spiritual development. And for an ordinary people, an ordinary, uncultivated mind, usually, harbors, greediness, selfishness, and egotism. So the task confronting us as followers of the Dhamma is to keep, these unwholesome kind of, these tendencies in check, right? And to foster the growth of the wholesome tendency, right? And this quality lead to awakening, to freedom and purification. And we are now living in the constant, influence of the environment, right? And among the most powerful of this influence is the company that we associated, right? So the people whom we look as a teacher, right, monks or friends, then such people, will silently speak, to our hidden potential of being, the potential that will either unfold or wither under the influence. So in the pursuit of our spiritual path, right, it becomes essential for us to choose as our guides and companion. So the noble qualities that we seek to internalize, by the practice of the Dhamma. And this is particularly necessary, right, in the early stage of our spiritual development, when our virtuous aspirations are still fresh and tender in the early stage of the mind, right? So this early phase of a mind, right, resemble a chameleon, 变色龙, which affect, which alters, right, its color according to the background. So just as this remarkable lizard, right, turns green when in the grass or brown, when on the ground. So we become full when we associate with full, and sage when we associate, the noble one, right? So yeah, in the whole of spiritual path, we will aspire, for the highest happiness, which is nibbana. Then we must enter into the association with those who represent the highest. Even if we are not so fortunate as to find the companions who have already scaled the high, we still can welcome ourselves blessed if we cross paths with a few spiritual friends who share our ideals and who make earnest effort to nurture the noble qualities of the Dhammas in our heart. Okay, so this is the end of my topic today, associating with the wise. So we still remain sometimes for the Q&A.
Yes, Bhante, thank you so very much for this lovely and wise sharing that you have shared with us today. We have now come to the Q&A session. So there are a few questions here that the audience has asked. So I will share this with you, Bhante. our very first question, yeah. So the very first question, Bhante, I see parents struggling to connect their kids with other peers. How come I don't feel the same way? I often wonder. Please.
What? Sorry, I cannot see.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I have inserted the question in the chat box. If
Okay.
you can open the chat box, then you can see. But I'll repeat the question, yeah? Okay, so this question is Bhante, I see parents struggling to connect with their kids with connect their kids with other peers. How come I don't feel the same way? I often wonder. Please shed light on teen friendship, especially those kids who perform the 10 days novice junior monk at your monastery.
Okay. Yeah, so this is indeed, very, very challenging. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know how to reply this, but definitely, you see, when you're talking about the children, they come to a temple, they want to, stay away, from the family. They want to experience something new. And, in a monastery, they learn something new, which is very much different from from the house, from the school. So, they have a very different experience. And of course, when they go back home, they will face, the same problem as before. So, yeah, I think that the environment is also very important, especially the youngsters, especially during this MCO time, they were trapped in the house, not going out. So now once this MCO is lifted, they have, the opportunity to stay in a monastery where, the monastery has a spacious space for them to move around, and they have like very different, the experience. So I think, students would be very, very happy living in this kind of environment. So I think, of course, it's not easy. Yeah. So, but of course, usually in our training, we will teach the students, our children, to be, filial piety to the parents. Yeah. And, kind teachings like that. So we have tried our best, you see. So I think, of course, we have to really put a lot of effort, both as a monastery as well as the parents, and how to bring up, the children. Yeah. So I think one side is not enough. It's not sufficient. Okay. And of course, I think the parents, or we have to find the root of this problem. That's why the children, doesn't want to want to stay in the place, try to stay away from family like that. So I think we have to find the root, the root cause to this problem. Yeah. So yeah, of course, we have done our best, to train our team, to have good virtues, to show the filial piety to the parents, things like that. Yeah. So, and of course, we do provide the environment for them, make them feel good when they come to the temple, and of course, we also like, they're big parents, you're taking care of them. So they feel kind of warm, hospitality when they stay in the temple. So yeah, I think a lot of efforts we have to do, for this.
Yeah, agree, Bhante. I mean, when I learned in my counseling course, teenage years is a time when we are learning about identity. It's a confusing time as it is, So it's really lovely for parents to be. I mean, it's natural for parents to be concerned.
Yeah, because nowadays we don't find many temples offer this. So that's why, because of many reasons, I think we also introduce a monastery stay, in Brahma Vihara. We want them to, to be out, from the house temporarily. At least, they stay in a very different environment, to have a different experience, so that they might, become more peace, more calm, more joyful. You see? So that is our purpose of having this monastery stay.
It's wonderful.
We also will do the same when they come to our place. They can feel that kind of joy and happiness, but probably for them 10 days is not enough. Yeah. Anyway, we really have to work hard. Our Buddhists really have to work hard. They are both parents and the monasteries, and see how we can help our teen better.
Yeah, to offer the additional support systems.
Yeah, it's true.
Really Okay, thank you, Bhante. So we'll move to the next question. Yeah. So, okay. The
I-
next question. No, yes, yes.
I think someone also asked questions like, let's say like during the Chinese New Year's, what can we do, to tell the people, seeking for blessing at the temple. Yeah. I think, yeah. So can you raise that question?
Okay, we can raise that question. This is the question. Okay, we can do that question first. So this is the question. Many people are interested in omens of good and bad luck. So this is evident when we see people seeking blessings at the monastery or temple, especially during celebrations like Chinese New Year. So what can we share with these people?
Yeah. Of course, I think this is very much relevant because as our Chinese New Year is approaching, right? And of course, we do notice that a lot of Chinese, they will go to the temple, do all kind of superstitious, the belief, right? And of course, many people ask us, is this relevant? Why Buddhists still do these things like that? Yeah, but of course, I think I have to talk something, to what they call, this kind of, this kind of belief is associated with the ignorant, not knowing anything, especially when, seeing other people do it, or when you see your parents doing it, we just follow accordingly. So this is, mostly, due to the influence of the culture or due to the influence of tradition that we live in. So, eventually we also blindly following this and we never ask why. And even we try to ask our parents, I think our parents also cannot answer you, just say, anyway, you are blessed already, huh? But, children, they will inquire much more, but parents still can answer them. So this kind of culture has been, carry on from generation and generation. So I would say, this kind of belief is very weak, right? It's very fragile and has no foundation, right? Say, for instance, like, if these people, their requests are not satisfactorily made, right? With their praying, for example, then they will start criticizing and start destroying, the object of worshiping, you see? So this is indeed a very ignorant. Yeah? I think last year also we saw in the newspaper, right? We saw a group of, Hindu devotees, right? And they believe by washing, their body, using the water from the Ganga River, which they believe the water from the Ganga River is very sacred, right? That can wash away, their sin, but still, they're still, infected by, the COVID virus. And of course, they got very angry, and destroy and demolished, these statues of goddess and throw them in the water, right? So to me, this kind of action is indeed very brutal, right? And that is due to the utter ignorance in their belief, right? And of course, yeah, the Buddha definitely, against any forms of superstitious, right? And of course, Buddha was very successfully, right, doing it during his time. And a lot of Brahmins or the Shramanas or recruits, from other religion, right, also later on joined and embraced Buddhism, right? Then after the passing away of the Buddhas, right, his teaching, very quickly spreading around, the growth. Yeah? And of course, you look at the Buddha's teaching, you see the Buddha's teaching of the middle path, all right, and its very, adaptability in approach, right? Then the Buddha's teaching very soon, integrated in many, respective cultures, without violence, right? So you find Buddhism in Thailand, you find also Buddhism in Sri Lanka, Buddhism in China, Buddhism in Japan, etc., or even Buddhism in Malaysia. You see, all differ from each other, and we cannot say, oh, my into our Buddhism. You see, so but whatever it is, different forms of Buddhism you find, but the essence of teachings of Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, remain the same. So we see the Chinese New Year is coming, right? And Chinese people, right, usually seeking blessing, in the temple. Then, of course, in the temple, you do find the temple encouraging, devotees to light the candle, right? That's signifying, dispelling the darkness and ignorance, right? And to give brightness, the brightness in the year ahead. Also, we encourage the devotee, okay, during the first day of Chinese New Year, you can do dana to the Sangha, right? Or to observe the morality, you see, to accumulate merit for oneself. Or listen to the Buddha's teaching, to strengthen the faith and understanding. Or attending the chanting session or writing calligraphy, like most of the Mahayana temple they do, right? To have peace of mind or being mindful or meditation, to have a clarity of mind, etc., etc., etc. during this Chinese, festive, season. So to me, all these things seems to be very auspicious and blessing, during the Chinese New Year's, and it's more solid and tangible. Okay, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Bhante. So what I understand is what's recommended. The recommended practices would be to offer lights, to cultivate practices which are helpful towards clarity of the mind, body, emotions, and spirit during the festive season, as opposed to seeking purposely to ask for blessings for good omen or bad omens and things like that at the temple.
Yeah. So we have to start from within, huh?
Yes.
So this is what we call, our way of doing is associated with wisdom, not with ignorance. Yeah?
Yeah.
So like during the Buddha's time also, he's giving light, to those practice. You see, it means that people, when they do something, they need to understand, what is the significance, behind, why they want to do this. Yeah, so I think we have to be skillfully, teaching our future generation, our young generation, why your papa, mama, do this. You see, so that our children will get to know this, and then they will bring this good value, continue this good value to our future generation. So the understanding, the right view is very important. So in that case, I think parents is also their good teacher, their good friendship, their good friend to their children.
I like what you shared earlier also about cultivating what's inside, because I think right now with all the media, social media and everything that's happening, it's so easy to get caught up in seeking for this external validation, external gratification, but really, the work is about cultivating what's inside us.
Yeah. I think our Malaysian Buddhists not doing enough, huh? So I think we have to really work hard, work together, see what our our Buddhist Buddhist community can offer, to our Buddhist community. Our monk can offer to the Buddhist temple, can offer to the Buddhist community, more of the practice of samatha, vipassana, of insight meditation. So that is very crucial. That is very important. And that is also blessing, yeah?
Yes, it is.
It's blessing. Indeed, the highest blessing.
Okay, Bhante, I understand is that we have 5 more minutes, but we also have a few more questions. Shall we address one more question, or you're happy to?
Okay, yeah, we can. Yeah, I saw here in a chat group here.
Okay, in the chat group here, I think. Look at it. Okay, yes, in the chat group here, Bhante, how do I know that there's a weighty karma waiting to ripen in this lifetime? Hearing the story of Moggallana killing his parents in his past life shook me greatly, as I cannot imagine doing it to my own parents.
One reap one own consequences. So we are responsible, to our own action. So I think no one can avoid it. Even you look at, this Moggallana, in one of his life, he killed his father, he killed his own parents, so he suffered, in the niraya, in the hell, for a long, long time. Yeah. So you see now, since we have the opportunity to learn the Dhamma, so we have to accumulate doing more good merits. Yeah. So this is what I think we can think of, we can do. Past is already past, right? So what we can do now, is to transform. Transform the future. We can do it now. You see, so yeah. So past is already past. So.
Yeah, a lot of our anxieties, I think, and fears always we get troubled by what's happening in the past, or we're always like thinking about what's happening in the future, right? So
yeah, if we don't do it now, then there is no future, right? If you want your future to be good, I think you have to start now, huh? So never too late, huh? So doing good. You look at Buddhist countries, the Buddhist monk will teach their devotees, every now and then, to have good thought, to do good meditative deeds, it's every now and then. So the Sangha is it's a field of merit, for devotees to do their merit. So I think it is also our responsibility to teach our devotees, to do good deeds. Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante. Bhante, if you don't mind, can we address one more question?
Okay.
Okay. So this is a question. Many people told me that evildoers who are still living happily and are not punished in this life, even though they have done so many immoral activities, is due to their good karma in their previous life. Is it true? I am truly confused, especially when I witness so much suffering among the innocent beings in this universe.
Yeah, definitely, because you cannot judge a person's action, in this life. Say like if a person doing a lot of bad thing in this life, still, he live a very, good life. Yeah, definitely. We talk about the karma, stretching to 3 life, talking about the present karma, the past and the past, many past before. That could also be because, yeah, it's quite true. We need not to, I think we have to, practice equanimity. The Buddhist teaching of equanimity, when, we have to be, practice, peace of mind, when say like, for example, people scolding us, and of course, ordinary people will take revenge immediately. You see, you scold us, I will scold you back. You see, when you scold back, of course, you are committing bad karma again. You see, but as a good Buddhist, you are trained. Then when someone scolds you, you probably think like, that could be due to my past karma or my karma. Now I have to reap my consequences. Yeah. So when you scold me, I happily accepting, your criticism. So in this way, I think all your problem, can be solved just within a moment. It can be solved. So you have to admit that, yeah, it could be one of my past life. I scolded you. Then I reap my own consequences. So that's quite fair, isn't it? So yeah, if you have that kind of karma concept, believing in the karma concept, I think you will live happily, without grumbling, criticizing. Why he's doing bad, still he has good life, then but no need to worry, because the karma will handle that part. It's a matter of time only. Okay. So more important, we have to live in peace, without disturb. We take care of ourselves. That is more important.
Thank you, Bhante. So we have now come to the end of the Dhamma talk in the Q&A session. I'd just like to invite Bhante to lead us through the sharing of merits before we close.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Let us put our hands together as Bhante guides us through this sharing of merits.
Okay, so now we share the merits with your parents, teachers, right? All beings, friends, relatives, hungry ghosts, and deities. Right? Imang no punya bhagang mata pito nancha acharya nancha sapa sata nancha sapa meta nancha sapa nyati nancha Sabba Petanancha, Sabba Devatanancha, Bhajema, Sabbe Sata, Sukita Hontu. Idang me nyati na hotu, Sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati na hotu, Sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati na hotu, Sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me punya asava kaya vahang hotu. Idang me punya nibbanas pacayo hotu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much, Bhante, for this enlightening session today. We will now bid farewell to the audience who have followed us and joined us this morning for this session. I wish everyone a life of good friendship, good companionship, and good comradeship. May we live a very, very blessed spiritual life this year, full of abundance, prosperity, great health, and vibrant, what's that word? Vibrance. Okay, so have a wonderful day ahead and a great year ahead. Take care.
Let me a pure white lotus be, unfolding in samsara stream. Let all the gloom of misery be gathered in my lotus dream. Let each dewdrop that started light on each white radiant coat reflect the mercy of the Lord, that is their place to go. Let every wave that tumbles down their curdled slime of wrath prepare to lotus roots of dusty brown in my compassion's bounty share. Let every spark of vengeance roll round lotus tops and twine, and greed and life transformed by love in lotus heart and shrine. When each life drop has passed away across my pure white lily door, when I have drained all sorrow may I speak to deck the lossless floor. Let every petal softly fold in summer's golden shine, retreat to claim the splendid prize, Nirvana's joyless mind. samsara stream. Let all the gloom of misery be gathered in my lotus dream. Let each teardrop that started lie on each white radiant fold reflect the mercy of the Lord. That is their place to go. Let every wave that tumbles down their curdled slime of wrath repair to lotus roots of dusty brown in my compassion's bounty share. Let every spark of vengeance roll round lotus tops entwined, and greed and light transformed by love in lotus heart and shrine. When each life drop has passed away across my pure white lily door, when I have drained all sorrow may, I speak to deck the lossless floor. Let every petal softly fold in summer's golden shine, retreat to claim the splendid prize, Nirvana's joyless mind. Let me a pure white lotus be, unfolding in samsara stream. Let all the gloom of misery be gathered in my lotus dream. Let it